One. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Today we are talking about health concerns and you. Health concerns and you. Thank you for joining Journalism in Journalism with Jude. Today we have Mr. Uh, Matt. Michael Castaneda joining us today, and we appreciate you. And the reason why he's here because a lot of teachers have issues with their health. They have issues with their health, and then the rule is number one: they usually stay home, and then they recuperate, and then they return back to school. But Mr. Castaneda, he didn't do that. He didn't stay home. He recuperated, and then he returned back to school. And then our segment tonight is focusing on what happened to him. What was his health concern, and why did he come back to school? So we're focusing on his health, um, his his condition, and then his reason for returning back to school. So, Mr. Castaneda, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you for being here, and tell us about your health.
Hi. Well,
What
good
happened?
evening. I just want to say hi. Thanks for having me here. And what was going on? Basically, I'm a high school teacher at Pulaski High School in Milwaukee. Um, we're dealing with ninth to 12th graders. I'm a science teacher. What was going on basically is on the morning of February, I think it was the 5th or the 7th, right around there. I can't even remember anymore because I've had so many doctor's appointments and whatnot. But basically, I woke up with chest pain and my arm really hurting. Now, the classic signs of heart attack, which is what happened, is that for males, a lot of times classic signs are you get a pain going up the left arm and then up into the neck area, and you'll feel tension in your neck, and you might start perspiring on your cheeks. Well, what happened with me is that I woke up with some chest pain, but what really hurt was my right arm because I've had some former problems with the right arm with carpal tunnel from all the typing that we do as teachers and whatnot, and golfer's elbow. I used to work in the machining industry and assembly, that type of thing. So I've had issues with this arm and tendon problems and whatnot. But my right arm was really, really hurting so bad to the point where, as if I would have had like a little button that you could detach your arm and just set it aside, I would have done it because that's how bad my arm hurt. And then after I was like thinking to myself, this hurts so bad, but oh no, guess what? I got chest pain. So I was in the midst of a heart attack in the morning. And what happened is that I told my son, he kind of, what? Dad always goes to work. He never misses work. And so he was kind of freaking out. And then what happened was I called up my in-laws who lived like less than a mile away. I knew that they were always home and I knew they'd be here like really fast. So they wound up taking me to the emergency room really fast. I got in the emergency room. There was no line, no waiting, thank God. And, got in and they did stent surgery.
Wow, what kind of surgery was it?
Stent surgery. Stent surgery is like where they put a little tube that's made out of like a steel mesh, and that helps maintain the size of your artery so the blood can flow through there again. So what they
Okay.
do is like they do an arthroscopic surgery. I don't know if you can see here, but you might see two little dots on my wrist there. That's from where they went in twice. So I had different stents put in to open up the arteries, one in the front and one in the back. And due to a little bit of complication, I still had some partial blockage. I had to go back and in what was it, March 7th, and I went back, and then they went in through the groin arthroscopically again to go clear up some more blockages. So basically, what happened is I was off almost all of February. I think I went back for like a week at the end of February. And then I was supposed to continue on with work, but they wanted to come in with this other surgery. So what happened also was that they wanted a COVID testing. Okay, so I went in for a COVID test. And what happened was I wound up being COVID positive. And what originally happened is I was COVID positive back in January on the 21st. And they say that once you test positive or had the virus, it can stay within your system for like 90 days. So what happened is that I knew I was going to test positive because of this 90-day window. And so when they retested me in March. Um, Came up positive, and then I was put in isolation again before going back for the second surgery. So
Wow.
it's been a long time in recovery. I mean, it's been kind of slow with the recovery. I had my advances and retreats with as far as physical therapy, cardio physical therapy. Um, I would do pretty well one day, and then the next day and time I would come back in, I would have chest pains again, so I couldn't do what I was previously doing. So I was up and down with how well I was, coming along with my recovery, and so there was step backs that way, and so that's one of the reasons why I was out so long, adjusting medications, and just getting on a road to recovery. Now, a lot of what I've been to, and I'm still trying to move forward with my recovery.
Before the surgery, did you have any other physical ailments that caused the heart condition?
No, I would say this is more of a genetic problem because in my family we have a long line of heart disease.
Oh,
uh,
really?
yeah, both sides of the family, but especially my father's side of the family. My father's deceased. He died of a heart attack at the age of 42.
Oh, I'm
His
sorry.
brother His brother also is deceased. He died about the same age. I was a little bit too small to remember, but I believe he was around 38 when he died of a heart attack. My grandfather, also on that side of the family, he died of a heart attack as well. I believe he was in his 50s. So yeah, there's a very long string of heart attacks in the family. Not to mention on my mother's side of the family, I've heard that numerous uncles of mine have had stents, as well as my grandmother. She had 5 bypasses back in the 70s. So it's quite extensive in the family.
Okay. What do you recommend to tell viewers about genetics and your condition?
Well, the thing is to get a good family history first off, because one of the things is that my family history was pretty much undocumented, and I'm not talking about being undocumented as far as, immigration status. I'm talking about being documented as far as the family keeping medical records. They just wouldn't go to the doctor, or they would, and, I'll
Hmm.
deal with it myself, and not see a doctor or not inform the rest of the family what's going on. So when it came, when I came to be an adult, like around 18, 19 years old, one of the first things I started doing was telling the doctor, family history. I got a long history of heart attacks in the family. I have diabetes in the family. Trying to make sure that my doctor was aware of that type of thing and to keep looking for warning signs, especially with the diabetes, taking the blood sugar levels. And as far as with the heart disease, was to keep an eye out for that. But unfortunately, due to my genetics, I just couldn't avoid it at first. So I had one previous heart attack, and that was about 11 years ago. And that came on suddenly. I didn't even know. I was working at school, teaching as I normally do. And I finished out the day. I told my students in my last hour class, your teacher doesn't feel well. I don't care what you do. Don't tear up the room. I'm not feeling well. I'm staying right here. I went home thinking it's indigestion and all that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And I finally felt so bad, and my sister and I talk. And so she goes, did you check your blood pressure? And I said, no, but I'll go do it. And I found out it was sky high. It was like 180, almost 200 over 100 and some. I can't even remember the diastolic, but it was way up there, like 120, 130 on the diastolic, which is really bad. So she's like, you got to go in. Yeah, I got to go in. So, and I was going to drive myself, but yeah, I was smart enough to finally just cave in and let somebody else drive me over there. And I was like, "Oh, doctor, you gonna give me some nitroglycerin or whatever and let me go?" And they go, "No, you're having a heart attack. You're going to the heart hospital right now." so, so that was how it went, and that was my first stent surgery. So, Um,
Wow.
what I would tell people is always keep a good track of your medical records. Try to know what your family medical records are like if they have problems of the same nature, and keep on top of it. I mean, even with this heart attack, I was exercising. I was cutting down on like all the bad food that they tell you about, like chips and soda and excessive sugars and all this kind of thing. Trying to do better, and yet what happened? Even though I was exercising and eating better and trying to watch things, it still happened. And like I said, it's because of family genetics.
So
So
sometimes it's not always what we do, it's just it's in our genes.
yes, and quite frankly, both my primary care physician and I, we both said, "Oh, so you had COVID in January?" And we both kind of paused and were like, "Hmm." And we both said at the same, "Nah." We both kind of knew it was genetics, and I wish I had some pictures for you because they would give you images of the heart and what was clogged and what it looks like after they put in the stent and whatnot. But yeah, it's one of those things I just couldn't avoid.
So right now, are you teaching your son to have annual medical visits with the doctor?
Yeah, he keeps a better eye on that. I mean, I own a blood pressure cuff. That's another thing that somebody in my situation should own. Um, Keep regular tabs on how your blood pressure is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Watching your weight.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to keep a good, healthy weight. Although, we all get a little bit heavier as we get older, so
Mm-hmm.
some of that's a little bit unavoidable. But keeping a good track on that, keeping a good diet, nothing in excess, just like they tell you. Don't do anything in excess. Don't eat too much. Don't drink too much. That kind of thing. So
Now, if someone would like to purchase a blood pressure cup, will your doctor give it to you for free, or do you have to buy it from like Walgreens or?
yeah, I bought mine from Walgreens.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Amaran is probably the best mark for best brand name for getting a blood pressure cuff. It's the same ones that they use in the hospital. So, and you can buy the ones that are automatic, so self inflate and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about an expense of around $80, but you can get them as cheap as $60, maybe even 50 if you go on Amazon and use your Honey app. I don't know how many of you guys use Honey, but yeah, you can get the discount that way. It's just that you might be waiting a little bit with the supply chain issues we're having.
Now, even though the insurance does not pay for it, it is recommended for
Oh,
every household.
oh yeah, that's something that you should have if you have this kind of problem in your family. Definitely would recommend it.
And you were smart because you mentioned that you called your in-laws and you have them to come over. But why didn't you just dial 911?
Why didn't I dial 911? I just,
Mm-hmm.
well, they live less than a mile away from me. So I
Okay.
knew that the ambulance was going to take longer than they would have. And they're expensive. So, I mean, also being divorced dad, yeah, watching pennies and that kind of thing. So it was like, I know they're right there. And so I knew they were going to be over within 5 minutes, which they were. So
Okay, that's good. And that's the reason, and because they were expensive, like your son said?
that's part of the reason. But I mean, I knew they were right there. And I know how far away they live. I know where the hospital is in relationship to them and me. And as far as the ambulance, I don't know how far away that is from my house. So
Oh, really?
my in-laws are actually a little bit closer, and they're boom right there. So
Okay. All right. I was looking at an article on Google and it said before you have a heart attack, you have to number one, call 911 or your local emergency number. And then they said to take an aspirin. You want to chew an aspirin while you're waiting for the paramedics.
yeah, the aspirin actually is a blood thinner, so that would help kind of with the blood flow. Now, I wouldn't recommend people not calling 911 like I did. The only reason I did is because I already knew ahead of time that they would be there. But yeah, best to call 911 and get them going.
And also, you mentioned that you asked for a nitroglycerin pill,
Nitroglycerin, yeah,
nitroglycerin pill.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's more like an emergency purpose to help lower blood pressure.
Right. Okay. And then the last one they said, if you can't take a nitroglycerin pill because I guess that's prescribed by your doctor, they say you always want to perform CPR if the person is unconscious. So like if someone lives with you and then you start to have a heart chest pains, they said start performing CPR
Yeah,
just in case. And the PCR, the CPR, it would keep your blood flowing to the heart and in the brain.
yeah, that's the important thing is keep the blood flow. I mean,
Right.
one of the reasons you're having a heart attack is because there is a blockage in blood flow.
Mm-hmm.
So the best you can do, I mean, in the circumstance, is try to keep the blood flow with CPR.
Right. Okay. And your story was amazing because not only did you have a heart attack, but then you returned back to school to help the students, and I just thought that was amazing, even
Oh,
in your condition, because you could have taken more time off. Correct?
yeah, I mean, currently I'm in a battle with FMLA in Sedgwick. Part of that is documentation. Always have documentation. Always try to get as much documentation as you can get. Now I forwarded it to them twice, and they're just having issues with reading the format. So another thing I would suggest if you ever have anybody that has a situation where you have to file FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act paperwork, is to get your hard copy, get a paper copy, and if you can, get a fax and fax it to them. I don't even care if I have to wind up going over to like the UPS store or Home Depot, or I mean, not Home Depot, but Office Depot or something like that, and have them fax it directly over there so that they get a hard copy of the documentation. And
Absolutely.
that's
Mhm.
another thing that's important if you're dealing with insurances and work and having to take off leave of work.
And one more thing, disability insurance is very important because if something happens to you at work or off work or at work, then if you file disability insurance, then you will be compensated while you're sick. So that's another
Important step.
aspect that you can have. Right.
Yeah, good precaution. I mean, I think that's another thing I'm going to look in. I know that I had plenty of sick hours as a teacher. You
Mm-hmm.
know, over the last, oh, I don't know, 12. I think this is my 15th year of teaching, so I had built up a lot of sick time over the years. One of the things as a teacher, we hate being gone from our classroom, especially in our district, because we know that if we don't show up to our classroom, more than likely, the work isn't getting done when we're not there.
True.
Our students really respond to their teacher. This is my teacher. I'll do work for this person. I'm not going to do work for a substitute. That happens more often than not, sad to say, but that's one of the reasons why I did go back to work is that my students respond better to me than they would with a substitute teacher. So that's just part of the job.
Well, actually, your students were very respectful to other teachers in the building. So, right, they didn't have any problems. Your class was actually one of the best.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Right, you were absent, right. So when the teacher came in and they took over your room, they put a video on. Let's say if they were teaching earth science and they showed a video and they had the students to watch the video, maybe respond to the questions. Everyone participated. Maybe there might be maybe one behavior problem,
Yeah,
basically, but
but
90% your students were the best.
oh, thanks.
Right. So I just wanted to let you know that so you didn't have any problems about that. So this concludes our interview session. I do want to thank you. This is about health hazards, and just being focused on our health and also our medical history, and also having the supplies that we need to maintain a healthy lifestyle at home. So whether it be a blood pressure cup or having aspirin around or nitroglycerin if it's prescribed by your doctor. hmm And then just knowing like who's available if something happens to you to call 911 or take you to the hospital. So all of these factors can tie into saving a life. So we do appreciate you for joining us, and we do appreciate your dedication as a chemistry and earth science teacher at Pulaski High School.
Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate
Your teaching has not been unnoticed, and the students also they love and appreciate you. Okay, thank you. Have a great night, and thanks for sharing. Okay, bye bye.